Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. That was like a really slow, like, hi.
Really warming you up
It
to this
feels
one.
like that kind of day, too. It's very...
It has been pouring all day. It's one of those days you just want to curl up and take a nap. But here we are instead. All done up for you guys for this video.
Clearly. Put so much effort into our appearance. No, it really is, like, dismal. So I'm sorry if we are not as cheerful as normal. I think we'll get over it because we have kind of a new favorite topic to talk about. Something that we've been on and on about, and we're going to keep on this train because, okay, before we get started, if you haven't listened to the podcast from this past Tuesday, you should go back. You should listen to that because we made two more big announcements preceding our last...
Dropping bombs all over you guys. All these new changes.
Preceding our last two big announcements that we had in June. So, short story. We can talk more about it at the end. But our new course, Getting Over People Pleasing. I was like, what do we call it? And I'm just like, that's what it is.
Make it obvious.
I'm not going to come up with like a clever name when I could just come up with something that is just dead ass descriptive. Getting over people pleasing. That is the goal. That's what we're going to do. So we are launching this new course in August on Tuesday, August 20th. So about a month from today. Well, calendar-wise, we're going to be launching that. And a few just like high level, I guess you would call it, details.
One is that we don't know when we're doing this again. We just decided we wanted to do it this summer, and we just made it, and we don't really have a plan for what's going to happen with it. It'll at least be a year if we do it again, probably around that, just given the rest of our schedule.
Which means it's not available 24/7.
No.
Is the short, like the short summary of that. We're not doing it, we're not going to have it available for purchase all the time. It's going to be enrollment based. We're only going to do it when we feel like doing it or when we have time to do it. So if you do the course, you get forever access to it, though. So even if you can't go through it with us in about a month between August and September, we're probably going to spend about 4 to 5 weeks with you guys on it, then that's fine.
You can do it at your own pace afterward.
Right. But I don't know when we're going to do it again. And obviously, because people who struggle with people-pleasing, you know what works for them? Accountability.
In order to get over people-pleasing, you gotta do the steps that it takes to get over people-pleasing, and that's the heart of what we're getting into in this course. We're gonna actually challenge you to do the hard things that it takes to stop this habit.
And it's gonna be helpful to lean on, here's the thing, we can lean on your propensity to people-please by holding you accountable for doing the things that we know you need to do in order to get over it so that you won't disappoint us.
Or the other people in the course.
Right. So, not that
You can use your people-pleasing.
Yeah, to trick yourself into getting over people-pleasing. That's going to be kind of
really
part of our sly goal with you guys. So, if you want more info about this, join our VIP list, which I will link to in the episode description so that you will get the latest updates. And then when we launch it,
you'll be the first one to know when it's available.
Which will be important because we're going to be doing some special... We always do special things for people who have expressed interest and ahead of time.
We watch out for our VIPs So it's easy to become one. Literally, just put your name and email.
It's going to be pretty affordable, guys. Like, in the same range as our other courses have been.
Yep.
So we really are excited about this because we haven't done anything brand new in a long time. And
we have a lot to say
we have
on
a lot.
this topic.
Well, here's the thing. We have a lot to say, but it's going to be more focused on you taking action and you reflecting and you doing the work than it is about you just sitting there and absorbing information.
Yeah,
it
you
has
don't
to
change just from theoretical understanding.
No.
Trust me, as a recovering people pleaser, I know you've got to do some hard stuff to get over it.
Yeah.
So we're going to walk you through that. We're going to hold your hand all the way through, but we're going to make you challenge this habit.
And I hope that you will like the good cop, bad cop approach that's going to happen.
Right, you get good cop, bad cop, and you also get never been a people pleaser and recovering people pleaser.
That's kind of what I mean. But I'm happy to also be bad.
Right. Well, that's just our roles normally in life.
I know that. I just mean what I meant by good cop, bad cop is that I don't really struggle with people pleasing.
So you're going to be like, come on, you guys. Like, let's get over this thing. And I'm going to be like, no, I get it. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah. So I think that that's a good balance because if you only had, like, both of the same type, I don't think that would work as well.
Right. It wouldn't appeal on such a broad base.
So I'm really excited about it. Join the VIP list if you haven't yet for more info and just be ready because in 4 weeks, we're doing the thing. And you're going to do it with a bunch of other people who all struggle and you can share your stories and you can ask your questions in the forum and you can be held accountable for doing some challenging, uncomfortable, but really necessary work. And I think it's going to be awesome. So all of that said, I wanted to talk more about people pleasing before we get into this.
We're going to actually break it down even a little bit further than just the blanket term of people pleasing because I have a feeling some of you guys are people pleasers, but you don't realize it because you might be a type that's not as common. Mm-hmm. And I want you to be able to look at these and say, uh-oh, I think I might be one of these, in case you didn't identify as a people pleaser.
That's a big problem, is that some of you don't think you're people pleasing, but you totally are. And you need to understand what behaviors actually count as people pleasing so that you can recognize that you have a problem. Because if you can't recognize that you have a problem, you can't change. Right. So that's where we have to start. So that's what I wanted to talk about in this side chat, which I hope will not be as long or as extensive as other side chats. But whenever I make promises about length and duration of time we spent talking, I always underestimate how capable we are of being long-winded. So who knows? But I don't intend for this to be that long of a conversation because it's kind of simple. There are 3 types of people pleasers, 2 of which are not that obvious. So we want to walk you through it. Okay, but first, we want to talk about just quickly what is the definition of people pleasing so that we all start on the same page. Would you like to enlighten them?
Yes. This is an attempt to manage your image, your behavior, maybe even your thoughts and your feelings.
Literally, internally, you can be trying to manage your own thoughts that no one is seeing.
Absolutely. Yeah. In order to get a particular result out of a situation or a response from other people because you want to. Yes, it seems like I want to be pleasing to other people because I care and I am empathetic.
Because I'm so nice.
Right. And yes. And it has a lot to do with the discomfort that comes from people responding to you in a way that you don't like and you don't want. And so you want to manage that response.
Okay, so let me sum it up in one word. It's about control.
Oh, yeah.
That is what people pleasing is about. It is about you managing your behavior, your thoughts, your feelings, the way that you respond to people so that you can, to the best of your ability, control the reaction and the response and the feedback you get from other people. Mm-hmm. That is it. If you can't accept that, then you cannot continue further on from here because you have to accept that you are a control freak if you are a people pleaser. You might not like that. You might be like, no, I am the nicest person. I don't try to control anyone. But if you insist on needing a particular response, and if you will only be happy ever with certain responses from people, whether that's directly or indirect responses, you are controlling. You are insisting that there is a right and a wrong reaction and that people and yourself need to fall in line in order to get the correct reaction out of yourself and everybody.
Inherent in the term people pleasing is I need others to be pleased with me and my behavior and my persona and my actions, which means I need to control everyone else's response to me. That is inherent in the actual definition of what we're talking about here. And it's kind of like, we're going to get into this one too. It's kind of like perfectionism. People are like, oh, it's like a great quality. You know, like I do such good hard work. Same thing with people pleasing, right? Like, oh, that just means I'm so nice and I care so much. Okay, those things might be true. And you are trying to get people to react to you in a particular way.
I just have to go off right now. I'm sorry. I didn't even wait to play the bad cop. It's just so inherent that it bubbles right out of me and I'm like, I gotta say it. I don't think there's any correlation between being a nice, caring person and being a people pleaser. I don't think so. I think you can be nice and caring and not fall into people pleasing behaviors
Absolutely.
whatsoever. I think that those things are often falsely connected. And to think that if I stop people pleasing, then I'm not nice anymore or then I'm not caring anymore. Totally separate traits. One is
100% agree.
One is a healthy thing. The other is taking what might be an inherently healthy quality to an unhealthy degree, to extending it into an unhealthy place. That is what people pleasing is. You might naturally be a nice person. You might inherently be a really compassionate, caring person. And if you're people pleasing, you have taken that compassion and you are giving it to the extent that you are now stealing and depriving it from yourself.
Absolutely.
Because if you are people pleasing, what are you doing? You are having to force yourself into a very small set of behaviors and thoughts and things that you believe are acceptable in order for you to get by, in order for you to get the response that you want. That's not compassionate. That's actually very painful. People pleasing is a very, very painful problem to be caught up in because it means you're never really free. You're not free to think your own thoughts. You're not free to just say what you want to say or to ask for what you need to ask for. You're not even free to sometimes even explore what you want in the first place or even know what your value system is because your whole life has been about figuring out what other people want and trying to give it to them.
People pleasing is all external. You're not actually trying to please yourself. And I feel like that's actually kind of cruel. To ignore your own desires and your own needs in favor of everyone else's. It's completely unbalanced. So we're not talking about becoming a completely selfish person who has no concern for others. We're talking about let's put you up with everyone else.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Let's
Can we make you
win-wins.
just as valuable and what you need and what you want just as important as what everyone else needs? That's what we're talking about. That's healthy balance.
Okay, so we just went off on a rant about people pleasing, but that's because
there's a lot of misconceptions though. I think it's important.
So many misconceptions. So many things to say that I have to rein it in because we have a whole course about this now. That's the point. There's a lot to say, and this is not the right space to say all of it.
No, we can't.
No,
but
can't
we
do
want to get into 3 different categories of people pleasing, one of which I'm sure you're aware of, 2 of which you may be less aware of. And that's why we want to make sure that you understand. It shows up in a lot of different ways. It has different faces. So the very first...
Well, 3 ways.
3.
That's not multiple.
A lot.
That's not a lot.
It's more than most people thought.
Probably.
Coming into this. So... the first one is what we're calling just your classic people pleasing.
This is what, when you think of people pleasing, this is what you think of. So you might identify as this, or you might know people who are like this, and it's just the behaviors that you're accustomed to thinking of when you think of people pleasing. So people
saying
who
yes
are
to everything.
Yes.
People come to you. Can you do this? Can you do this? Automatically, sure, absolutely.
Right. What can I do for you?
Anticipating everyone's needs even before they ask.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Yes.
Always thinking, what does this person need right now? Or what's their mood? How can I make that a little bit better for them? Being constantly aware of everyone else to their own detriment, usually.
We have a friend who has described this pattern in herself because she's very admittant, yes, I'm a people pleaser. This is something that I struggle with. One of the things that she has said is that it doesn't even occur to me often to think about what I want first. I am always thinking about how is that other person going to feel? What are they going to need? What are they going to want? She's like, to the point where sometimes I'm listening to a podcast and instead of me just enjoying it, I'm thinking, who can I share this with? Who
else needs to know this?
Who else needs this information? Who else? And to the point where she's like, I think I want to curate a podcast, a list of podcast recommendations for my friend who has a long commute. She hasn't asked me for this. It's just like, I might spend an hour out of my day coming up with this list, which sounds like a really nice thing. And don't get me wrong, could be a very nice thing to do for someone, but it's coming from this unconscious place of wanting to be loved.
And it's wanting to be accepted. That's just one small example of how her mind is always working.
Always focused on outside of herself, not even defaulting to asking, what do I want? Or why can't I just sit and enjoy this podcast?
Right. I used to have a bit of this. I think I'm much more in another category, but I have a little flavor of this, so I understand. It can be a hard habit to break, and that's because inherent in this is you really want, I would even say you need people to like you.
Oh, you believe it's a need. It's not a need.
It feels like a need. I need them to like me.
Mm-hmm.
Or to appreciate me, or to need me.
Mm-hmm. And so it is a compulsion. I mean, people-pleasing is an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It is something you cannot control. It is a compulsion. I mean, maybe some people can control it to degrees, but when you got it really bad, it's like an addiction.
Yep.
There's nothing that's going to be big enough to fill that void that you have of needing people to like you. And every day you've got to wake up and you've got to reset the score and do it all over again. Because
even if someone liked you yesterday, if you disappoint them today and they don't like you today, everything before that is a wash, is what it feels like. So you're constantly proving your likability to everyone.
Over and over and over again. And it is exhausting. I mean, this is why people pleasers are so burnt out. Because
they're stretched too thin, they're overwhelmed, they're exhausted. Mm-hmm. And they don't take very good care of themselves because that's their last priority.
Well, there's always something you could do for someone else.
Exactly.
So that never ends. Particularly if, you work with a bunch of people or you have a lot of family or you have a bunch of kids or even just one kid, right? Mm-hmm. There's always other people that you could be focused on rather than yourself to go get those literally hits, like hits of validation, hits of praise, hits of positive reinforcement. I would say, if anything, this will make more sense when we get into the next type. I think that those types of people pleasers are often very motivated by positive reinforcement. They want people to thank them or to praise them, and then when they don't get thanked, you don't get praised. Guess what happens?
Resentment, all the resentment.
That type very, very often falls into this like victim martyr complex. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry if it sounds harsh. It's just true. If you give and give and give and give and give and then you don't get anything in return, which often is because you are over-giving and your expectation for what you should receive in return is wonky, then you get resentful. You're burnt out. You're angry that no one seems to want your love as much as you want theirs. That makes you feel kind of worthless. And then all of a sudden, you're crashing. You're crashing into this place of feeling like kind of like a victim to your circumstance.
Yep.
It's a really terrible cycle. So that's the one you guys probably all know about. That's the one some of you are on.
You've seen that. As we're talking through it, if you're not raising your own hand, I know you're thinking of someone in your life who displays these tendencies, because this is rampant. And this is also the people who are most likely to self-identify as people pleasers.
Yeah, right. Because it's just so obvious. You can't really ignore it. So then there's the second type of people pleasers. These are, by the way, like we just named these ourselves. But I think that they're very descriptive and easy to remember. So the second type is avoidant, which means kind of unlike how the other type might be very motivated by positive reinforcement, I think that this type is very motivated by avoiding negative reinforcement. So they just want to smooth things over, keep the peace, avoid confrontation. So it's not so much about needing everyone to like them, which is a nice to have, but that's not the need. The need is to avoid confrontation. Yes. That is the big driver with these ones. And this is what Kristen is recovering from.
Yes, absolutely.
Always will be and will be trying not to be.
have to actively go against this default tendency. And that's fine. You know, once you practice it, it becomes a little bit more comfortable. I also want to say, if you're already thinking, oh, I might be a couple, because I think I'm a little bit
you can be all of these things.
You can be, 1, 2, or 3.
Sure.
All of them.
You could be a super people pleaser and be
all
really far on all of these spectrums.
Right.
Why not?
This is the one that I have historically fell into most often. So I know this one very intimately. So this is the one where you'll get a little bit annoyed or you'll get a little bit frustrated by something or by someone, and you won't even consider speaking up about it. You just kind of go and stew on your own and then get over it and then act like everything's fine. Because the worst thing in your mind is causing a whole big scene about it and causing some sort of a big confrontation, which feels so scary and so negative that you would rather just deal with it on your own and put on a smile and go back out into the world and act like everything's fine. And you can see how shoving down those negative emotions out of fear of what's going to happen if you express them only works to a certain extent, because at some point it's going to leak out. It's going to leak out in passive aggressiveness. It's going to leak out in an explosion of anger that's going to seem completely unwarranted for the situation. You can't just poof these feelings away. They're going to come out in an ugly way later on because you didn't express them in the moment. But you don't care or think about that because you're so focused on avoiding that confrontation right now in this moment. No.
This is why when we were in college and like shortly thereafter, when like drinking was more of a thing and everyone was drinking a lot and doing that. I haven't drank in 4 years and I love it. But she was the meanest person to me when she was drunk.
Right, because
she was bottling it all up. And what is alcohol if not a truth serum? And all of a sudden, not just... See, here's the thing. I think you were mad at everyone. But I think you took it out on me because somehow you knew that I was safe.
The safest one.
Like, I wasn't going to, like, abandon you or anything. Like, I think you knew that I was, like, going to stick around.
Yeah.
But, man!
Oh, don't worry. It went on other people, too, sometimes.
It was like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. But that's what happens when you're stewing, is... Don't think those feelings aren't going somewhere. Oh, they are. They're biding their time.
Simmering under the surface, and something will bring them out again.
Yeah. And, of course, there was a steady release, like a hiss of passive aggressiveness very often.
Oh, I had a bad passive aggressive
real mean passive aggressive streak.
Yeah, it was not pretty. Not pretty. No. So I'm telling you, this when you think you're avoiding confrontation, you're not.
You're just like picking at the edges of it a lot of the time.
And you're just kind of spreading it out, and you always have this low grade frustration because you never get to say what you want to say. In the moment you say, it's not worth it. Don't make a big scene about it. But it's still there. And so the next time it happens because you didn't speak up, you feel it even more, and it builds. So this one feels like they're not angry people.
Oh, but you are.
But they are. They're just not expressing it.
Everyone's angry. Everyone has
all emotions.
Right? There's nothing wrong with being angry. So whereas classic people pleasers are very much focused on, I need to control that people like me and find me really like that they love me. That's kind of like, I need them to love me. Yeah. So I need to control my behavior so that people will love me. An avoidant type is, I need to control my behavior and maybe try to control other people's behavior too, so that I can avoid confrontation and just keep the peace at all times.
Yep.
Or not be seen. Can I add that? Because I think that they also have a fear of vulnerability, like a real fear of people seeing you for who you are. That just feels very intimate. It can feel really difficult to let someone actually see you as you are. So often it's just like, I'm just going to do all the right things. I'm going to check all the boxes. I'm going to be as perfect as possible so that you won't look at me. Mm-hmm. Which might seem odd to people who like attention, or people who, like the first type, who really want to be likable and want praise and feedback. These people might just like want to skate by without anyone noticing them.
Yeah, don't rock the boat. Yeah. Don't cause any tension or pressure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So keep in mind that in this one, you can be avoiding getting yourself into a confrontation with someone else, or you could want to avoid even other people having confrontations in your presence. Because
you could try to shut down other
really
people's arguments.
Yep. You're the peacekeeper in your family, or you're the peacekeeper in your friend group, or at work. People start to get a little bit heated, and you're like, no, it's fine. It's all fine, guys. No, we're all happy here. That's it. So it's just in your presence at all, no matter even if you're involved or not. You still want to avoid it.
Really, 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 really hate that discomfort.
Yep.
The discomfort of vulnerability, the discomfort of a confrontation, it has to be avoided at all costs, and you will do what it takes and be whoever you need to be so that you don't have to feel the pain of that. That is what an avoidant person is going to do.
Yep.
And then we come to our third type, which I would say, if there was any... So here's the thing. It's not that I've never people pleased in my entire life. I contend that you cannot be a normal person who's not a sociopath or a psychopath who hasn't people pleased ever. I would say that sometimes you might not be a people pleaser, but you might have certain people who trigger certain types of people pleasing behaviors in you.
Or you could
which is normal.
Not be a people pleaser, but sometimes have people pleasing behaviors.
Sure.
Could be people, could be certain situations, kind of bring those out in you,
sure.
even though you don't live your life that way.
Right. It's not like a ubiquitous behavior. Like if you're a real people pleaser, it's showing up everywhere.
Yeah.
If you're not, it might show up very specifically with certain people or certain circumstances. And I've definitely had that, usually with bosses. So the reason I say that if there was ever a type that I fell into, it was this one, which is perfectionist. So these are the people, I love this because I love rocking the boat. And I love that these people are going to be like, I'm not a people pleaser. These are the type to most vehemently say they're not a people pleaser. But I'm about to correct your interpretation about that because if you're a hardcore perfectionist, what that means is that you might actually know or believe that you're smart, that you're funny, that you're likable, that you're competent, that you're talented, that you're respectable, whatever. But you don't trust that other people know that. And so in order to control what they think of you, your behavior and your results, your performance has to be on point at all times. That is people pleasing. Because
you have to prove to someone else that I am good enough or smart enough or capable enough or experienced enough or whatever. Now, I do want to say you can be a perfectionist people pleaser and still be doubting you could be doing the people please or the perfectionist behaviors because you don't really believe it yourself.
Sure, you might not believe that you're good enough.
You might be constantly trying to prove to other people and to yourself that you are capable and smart and all of that. So, but I do like that you threw that in there because people are going to think, well, if I'm confident about that, then I can't be trying to people please.
Of all the types, they're the most likely to think they're not people pleasers because they're the most likely to actually believe in their own abilities, but they don't trust that anyone else can see it. And so that is what unsettles them. And if you're motivated to make sure that other people see you a certain way, that's people pleasing.
If you go back to our definition, you're still managing people's reactions and responses to you. You still need them to think about you or see you in a certain way. So it still falls under there. And I know a lot of people who are self-proclaimed perfectionists.
Yes. Who say, oh no, I'm not a people pleaser. Okay, so if you're overworked all the time, if you're constantly saying yes, kind of like a classic people pleaser, because not because you need them to like you necessarily, or not because you don't believe you're likable, but because you want to prove to them that you're smart, that you're capable, or that you're talented, and it really rankles you that people might see you as anything other than what you believe you deserve to be seen as.
So you have to project this perfect image or these perfect results into the world to make sure that people are viewing you the way you want to be viewed. There's also a lot of fear of vulnerability in the perfectionism because vulnerability means there are inherent flaws. I'm not perfect. And so they will put up all kinds of walls and masks to play the part of the perfect person, the perfect employee, the perfect mother, the perfect friend, the perfect daughter, whatever role it is, you have to be perfect at it because you want them to see you in a certain light. You can't be your flawed self in that regard. So again, it's about control. That's what it gets down to.
So what is it that type of people pleaser is ultimately trying to control? Like, if they believe, and again, they are most likely to believe in their own inherent value, unlike the other types. Why do they need to control? It's because other people hold the key to the resources and the stuff that they want. It's not just like, I need that person to think I'm smart because it pisses me off if they don't think it. Yes, we can start there. But why do I need that person to think that? Because they might be the person who is capable of giving me a promotion. Mm-hmm. They might be the person who's capable of giving me a raise. Or they might be the person who determines how capable I am of being happy in this family. Like, if my mother-in-law approves of me and, you know, thinks that I'm like the perfect daughter-in-law, then I can have a great family life. Like, she's the gatekeeper to that.
Now, you can see how there's overlap between these. Course. Because you could be a perfectionist who is using perfection to avoid confrontation. If I'm perfect, no one will ever get mad at me. Totally. Or you could use perfection to make sure everyone likes you.
Loves you, even.
So I'm going to do all the right things so everyone's always happy with me and everyone always gives me good feedback. So you can see there's some blurry lines between these, but which is why some of you are going to fall into multiple categories because they bleed into each other. But some of you are going to say, oh, I'm not the classic or I'm not the avoidant, but I sure am a perfectionist. And so that can be its own category. You can fall just into one. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's all coming from the same place. It's all coming from needing to control and manage other people's reactions.
And thoughts.
Which is why it's still all people pleasing.
Okay, so what do we do about this? Well, I'm not going to get into it that much because we're going to have a whole course about this, and because this is going to be very action-oriented. This is a complicated thing. Each of these, so let me just start by saying this then. One of the most important things that Kristen and I realize needs to happen, and why we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on it in our upcoming course, is because is this. You have to get desensitized to discomfort, because any type of people pleaser, whether you're just one or you're all three or a mix, doesn't matter. The reason that you are feeling the need to so heavily control everything and everyone's reaction, everyone's feedback, is because you are inherently really, really, really thrown by the discomfort of confrontation, of vulnerability, of letting people think what they want about you without being able to manage it whatsoever. That is inherently incredibly painful and uncomfortable. And in order to get over people pleasing, you have to become desensitized to discomfort, because discomfort is never going to go away. It is necessary. It's part of life. And it's not about how can I erase all discomfort, because that's not what people pleasing, that's not what ascending from people pleasing is. It's not getting rid of discomfort. It's getting to the point where you can accept discomfort.
I'm just thinking of the other day when we were talking about the content for this course. At one point you said, well, becoming comfortable with discomfort. You're not, as a people pleaser, you are never going to be comfortable.
I know.
Which is why we're saying desensitized, because you have to feel, maybe you can feel neutral sometimes.
Sure.
That's it. That's maybe the best we're going for.
Yeah.
Because if you're feeling neutral, now you get to choose your response instead of going to the default of avoiding discomfort. That's what all of this gets down to. So the first thing we want you to do is start recognizing these behaviors, because some of you might not even have realized that this is a problem, or that you fall into any of these categories, or that you people please in these different ways. Yeah. And so until you start recognizing yourself in the moment, oh my God, I'm doing that thing. Oh, there's my perfectionism coming out. You can't change it. So this, if anything, the main point of this was for you to see yourself through a new lens. Mm-hmm. And recognize maybe there are some default behaviors here that are not helping me in the long run, and that I could be much better off if I broke these habits. So that's phase one. This is really the awareness phase of where you fall in these categories.
So we're gonna give you just a teeny little recommendation now about how to start becoming more inured to the idea of discomfort. And in the course, we're going to get a lot deeper into it. We're going to give a lot more examples. We're going to give a lot more action steps. It's going to be very comprehensive. But just one little question to send you off with is, what could I do this week? First, let's be aware of maybe just one particular people-pleasing pattern I'm falling into. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's with my family. It could be a very specific example if you want to. That's actually better. Like, the more specific you can be in this situation, the better. And then I want you to ask yourself, how can I get 10% more uncomfortable with this? So what could I do that would not be like flooring it and just high speed trying to jump into some crazy, confrontation.
Don't do that to yourself.
No, because that's completely unsustainable. We need to make small, little steady changes. So what I want to know is, what could you do in that situation that would be maybe 10% more uncomfortable than where you're at right now, but is more doable than maybe you give yourself credit for?
So first, answer that question. I would like for you to then go to the comment section of this episode on our site and tell us what you're going to do.
Or on YouTube.
And tell us what you're going to leave a comment and say, all right, here's the thing I'm committed to doing. There's something really powerful about announcing that to the world, to other people. So, and then you have to do it. That's phase 3. Then you have to actually go do it.
Literally, just 10%. If you don't like 10%, then think of a scale of 1 to 10 and think of the situation, the pattern that you fall into. Think about, how uncomfortable, how uncomfortable are you at the moment with this pattern? Where does it fall? And then, how can I just get, a little bit more uncomfortable? Just a little bit, stretch myself just a little bit further. So that might be my mom always calls me, late at night when I'm trying to go to bed. So you know what? Don't answer the phone. That might be, 10% more uncomfortable. Or tell her I'm not able to speak after 9 p.m. That might be 10% more uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Or we just had an episode recently with Alex Grodnick about rejection therapy, which I will link to at the end of this. He had some great ideas for asking for what you want and making yourself just a little bit more uncomfortable in the pursuit of, you can't get what you want unless you ask for it. So it could just be hey, could I have a discount on that thing? Or could I negotiate an hour extra every week to go to a yoga class or something? Start really, really small. And I want you to clock your reaction to small discomfort. Because in order to get to the point where you can do big discomfort, you got to start small.
You have to prove to yourself that you're capable of doing it and that the world doesn't end when you do it.
That is the thing. I have never yet seen someone's world end.
No?
From having not people pleased.
Not yet.
You would be surprised at the 100% track record I have of seeing that.
Or the times I've done it myself and realized I'm still here. I'm still
literally
all right.
Only ever seen people's lives improve.
Yeah.
And them feel freer and happier and more content and more able to consider, what do I want out of life? Mm-hmm. Now that I'm not literally handcuffed to this thing. It's dragging around this dead weight and you can't get rid of it. And so now you can free yourself and think about you for the first time ever, which, let me just finish by saying, is not selfish.
No.
It is not selfish to not people please, because people pleasing is an addiction. Is it selfish to get over an addiction? Or do you think you might actually be a better person if you got over that addiction? Do you think you might be more present for the people who really matter if you got over it? Do you think you'd probably be more grounded and happier and therefore just a cooler person to hang out with in general because you're not constantly panicked or fearful? Yeah.
I would argue, and this is coming from a recovering people pleaser, I would argue it's more selfish to continue people pleasing. Because then everyone has to act a certain way for you to feel comfortable.
Yes. That's very true.
And if you let go of that, people can respond however they want to respond, and you can say whatever you need to say, and it's all good.
Also,
you free other people up in addition to freeing yourself up.
Let me just say, I wouldn't still be friends with you if you were still a people pleaser.
Yeah, I've come a long way.
Because it would just be impossible to be friends with someone who refuses to have a personality.
No, it's so boring.
I mean, it really is, though. If you need people to think of you a certain way, you can't ever really be yourself, and no one can connect with you. So eventually they might just give up. because they're like, oh, I don't know
Who are
she
you?
even is. Yes. So
I have much, much deeper and better relationships now than I ever did when I
Yeah.
was hardcore in my people-pleasing mode.
yeah, I'm surprised that people are capable of maintaining friendships. It must be because so many people are people pleasers that everyone's kind of trying
Managing
to
each other's.
yeah, everyone's trying to connect on a surface level, but this is why so many people are unsatisfied with the level of connection in their lives, is because they're not willing to be uncomfortable. They're not willing to be vulnerable. They're not willing to be seen as they really are, flaws and warts and all that and all. So this is only going to make your life better, which you probably know intellectually, but need to be reminded of constantly in order to maybe believe it. So
we have a lot more to say on the topic of people-pleasing. We've had to rein ourselves in today. And we also have a lot more actions for you to take to get over this. We have almost a prescription built out for you for what you have to do to break this habit sustainably. And that is what we are getting into in our course that's coming out in August. So just be aware, if you found yourself feeling a little bit uncomfortably called out, maybe a little bit called out in this episode, then we made this for you. Yeah. We made this to help you get over this, because your life will be so much better when you are not ruled by people pleasing.
Yep. So please, if you're interested, join our VIP list, which I will link to in the episode description, and join us for this one time for now, might do it again, I don't know, ride, and get the hell over it. Let's just get on with our lives, people, and have fun and enjoy ourselves, maybe for the first time ever. Wouldn't that be revolutionary? Okay.
So as a reminder, if you're a VIP, you get early access or early knowledge about our course as we share more information. You also get some goodies that not everyone will be privy to, and it's very easy to join.
Yeah.
Just click the link in the episode description and enter your name and email address, and we'll let you know more as we're ready to share it.
All right. That's all, except for if you want to know a little bit more and a little bit deeper conversation about where does people pleasing begin, go to our episode, which most of you have listened to by now, but if you're new, we did a it wasn't actually a bonus book club, it was a side chat, but we talked about a book during that. It was an informal book club. It was an episode called Curing Your Disease to Please, or something like that, from I think it was May 2018. I will link to it. But we talked about the book, The Disease to Please. And in that, she talks quite a lot about, where does it really originate? And some of her theories about that, which is very interesting. And if you have not listened to that, that's a great thing to do next.
It'll help explain why you are the way you are as a people pleaser.
Okay. And I will also link to the rejection therapy episode, which is another really good one if you want to get over the fear of failure and just get a little bit more comfortable with the idea of discomfort. The good one too, from June 2018.
All right. Okay. We will see you on video here again in a month, and we will see you again on a normal podcast on Tuesday.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.